What would they try to? What were they trying to get them to confess specifically?
Anything, any
Yeah.
crime.
Just anything
Usually
against the state, crimes against the state.
Crimes against the state, mainly.
Yeah.
Sabotage, wreckers, as they called them, or going against the party or having counter-revolutionary ideas. And so they were extraordinarily nasty. Now, this was unlike a process we can even imagine. People were rounded up in the middle of the nights, thrown in the backs of these trucks, taken to this prison. They were held completely incommunicado. Oftentimes they were not fed. They never saw daylight. They were beaten daily and asked questions. Who do you know? Who else is committing this crime? They promised them lighter sentences if they told on people, if they exposed friends or whatever.
I'm going to start with the collapse of the Bronze Age, which was officially 1177 BC, right? It was in Armageddon. There was a nation of Babylon. There was the Hittites. There were the Assyrians, the Egyptians, the Canaanites, the Mycenaeans. There were all these great empires, and they were working very well together during the Bronze Age, everything before 1200 BC. Trading, it was a good relationship that everybody had with one another. And it seemed like an ideal world. Egypt being the most powerful because they had the most gold, but everybody trading off, my wife will marry, or my daughter will marry your son will marry your daughter. And they all connected in that way. And they each, all these kings called each other brothers. So there was a very united world for a period of time. But something happened. And in a generation or less, in a few decades, all those empires absolutely were decimated, collapsed, fell, and writing of many languages was lost. Languages were lost. Civilizations were lost. Societies were lost. Empires completely collapsed. The only one that hung on, barely hung on, was Egypt. And through them, we kind of get an idea of what had happened. And I'm not going to go deeply into this, even though it's a fascinating story. There was a people that came from the north, who I believe were the Greeks. Before they were called Greeks, they were called Mycenaeans, that came in with ships and just had some kind of technology, or were taking advantage of maybe a famine that was occurring, and they just pillaged every empire and decimated them.
I don't have any personal incredulities to, but if the information doesn't come with the credential, I could access pretty much all the same information you can.
Do you have any thoughts in terms of like towards science, that where you think that branches of science can't be trusted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Evolution, outer space, spinning Earth.
Outer space.
Okay, one thing at a time.
That's another topic.
One thing at a time.
Spinning and objective materialism.
Okay.
I expose those.
Well, for just a second, because I think this could tie into what we're talking about tonight. What about evolution do you think is incorrect, and what is your hypothesis for how we came to being?
All the evidence for evolution is ambiguous.
Okay.
I think that consciousness is an eternal constant, and it's always just watching something.
Okay, but how do you think that we got here as a species?
Oh, I've only been on this planet for 33 years, so I don't know. But I don't. Okay. I think
you're not making any claim that you do know something, like that you do know that evolution's wrong, and this is the way that it was done. Right.
I argue from analogy. So if you were to switch on a video game, World of Warcraft, you switch it on, everything's already there. That's how it is. My reality started when I first perceived it, and it's going to end whenever I last perceive it.
I think somebody needs to take the cartridge out and blow in it a little bit. Joe.
So like the Matrix?
Joe, let's
so I want to talk
since we're nearing the end of our time together, let's cut all the bullshit
All right, one more question.
aside and just admit that this is all a ruse. It's all it's a good ruse, and I think that you play it well, but you don't believe any of this shit, do you?
The most confident one I'm on is evolution. I'm the most confident on.
Oh God.
But I mean, do you guys think we evolved out of warm, bubbling mineral water?
Totally. That's exactly what I think.
Yes.
Who says that's what we evolved from?
You're using the
Bubbling
you're
mineral water.
you're
I
using
know
In
it's
fact,
logical.
I'm gonna go boil some mineral water on my stove and see if I can grow another fucking human.
What I don't think, Joe, is that there's somebody in some office somewhere that has created all of this in pixels and is watching it on a computer screen.
Well, that's a straw man. I never said that. It's a straw man.
Aimlessly. So is the boiling water. We never said that either.
She just said she believes it.
I was being sarcastic, for God's sake.
Right.
Such a big part of the culture. We know how to use it responsibly because it's so common, and we know how to like deal with people who are using it. So that legal, the fact that it's legal, helps in that sense.
There is, if you believe in peace, if you believe in freedom, if you believe in cooperation, if you understand that as a fundamental law of markets, of capitalism, that voluntary interactions, when people come together peacefully, that those interactions are always more conducive for human happiness than relationships when one person comes in and is forcing their will on the other person, then you can see that there's this ideal that we should be pursuing of a truly free market, of a non-violent society, of a coercion-free society where all relationships have no force, fraud, or coercion in any form. And when you understand that taxation is theft, that this is a government with an illegitimate claim to authority. They're claiming that they own everything in their territory, including you, your labor, the product of your labor. They are using violence against you to take something that doesn't belong to them. Now, there's one way that taxation is not theft. You could say that taxation is not theft if you are willing to say that government owns you, and therefore owns the product of your labor and owns everything that you own in subsidiary. I don't believe that. No, you own yourself. That's the premise of freedom. As a beautiful, independent human being, you own yourself. And no one can take that away, because that's part of being an independent consciousness in your own physical body. That's part of just observable reality of self-ownership, of immediate control. You own yourself. So when we say, look, who's going to pay for this without government, without this, without da-da-da-da, the question is, how are we going to pay for these things when we have nonviolent alternatives to the violent system that we have today? So you can look at every single thing, because like I could say, well, who's going to pay for the junkets to the Middle East and to tropical locations for members of Congress? And who's going to pay for the IRS to audit you? Well, nobody, because nobody wants that shit. That's the point.
Walk right in. I would like this particular gun. Why, thank you so much. Oh, I feel fantastic. Thank you. Have a fantastic day. And then you walk right out. If you feel like you need that kind of sport, have a range for that, where it's on lockdown, taken care of, and not just freely sitting in somebody's house where all they got to do is get mad one day and then go and shoot up a school.
Okay, so then why stop at guns?
I don't know what you're saying.
Well, why not remove anything that could make an explosive from people's homes?
Okay, so how often do you see people making Molotov cocktails, going outside schools and throwing them?
You know what? Up until about 96, we didn't see a lot of school shootings, but that became real popular in the media, so it's taken off. I think if you remove
a lot of gun laws have been really lax, and when the semi-automatic rifle, that wasn't actually renewed, so people started buying up AR-15s the moment that particular ban was lifted.
What about shotguns?
And it increases every single time there's a mass shooting. There's an increase in AR-15 sales.
Yeah, you know what? You know why?
Because people love guns.
No, it's
here.
because people are afraid that that's the first thing that's going to be attacked, is it's going to be taken away. I almost did it after this last one because I was afraid that there was going to be some rule implemented where all these guns that I enjoy shooting and having and
Okay.
that were going to be gone.
Okay, well, why don't we have a gun range and you just go there and shoot them all you want?
Why? Why do I have to do that? If I can say,
Why do you have to have them at your house?
Because
I don't have any guns, and I don't feel like a personal need that I have to shoot things constantly.
Well, that's you though. But I mean,
exactly.
For instance, I live in a rural area. I need guns. We have wild animals. We have bobcats that come up here. We've got javelina. My neighbor has animals that have to be protected. There's a skunk. I'm hunting a skunk currently because it keeps tearing apart the chickens.
What's wrong with just a regular hunting rifle?
What is that? Are you talking bolt?
I'm not talking about semi-automatics. I'm talking
talking about like a bolt action.
Yes.
Okay.
What's wrong with that?
That's a bigger caliber.
Okay, but you can't walk into a school and take out 15 kids in a matter of 30 seconds.
So are we going to also, well, I mean, if I'm going to walk into a close quarter combat situation, I'm going to take a handgun and a submachine gun that shoots handgun bullets.
Okay. So why do you need a submachine gun to take out a bobcat?
Preference? What if that's the only gun I'm really good with? It's no different than the AR-15.
Get better at another gun. So, I mean, I don't understand why that's hard for you. Get better at shooting another rifle.
Watch new episodes of Non Sequitur at 8 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday. Here's what's coming up this week.